You don't get the label black sheep without doing something to earn it. Black sheep aren't bad, they just stand out from the crowd. They look at the status quo and say, we can do that better. And that's exactly what we do.
Big move down the inside for the
Oh,
lead
Lord,
from
Eli
Laura.
takes the lead.
This is going to come down to the finish. Kyle almost side by side, but a good exit will give Laura Eli the win here overall in the first round of the Porsche Sprint Challenge USA West Series.
It's hard to contain your excitement when you get something you've really wanted. Like the gold standard in automotive protection, WeatherTech floor liners. With deep sculpted channels and laser measured for total protection in the front, back, and even up the sides.
Dad, you're going viral.
What? WeatherTech me.
So don't be shy, enjoy. Order your premium American-made products at WeatherTech.com.
Well, when you mention Cup cars at Watkins Glen International, you might picture slightly different racing, but the GT3 Cup cars here for Porsche Sprint Challenge North America by Yokohama should still provide plenty of fun and excitement, especially from what we've seen so far this weekend, which unfortunately saw a very interrupted qualifying, but that means we have a wickedly mixed up grid for race number one. I'm Joe Peak with Ryan Marine here today for this race. Ryan, so many unknowns left from that qualifying session gives us quite the race ahead of us.
Sums it up nicely, Joe, for sure. If you go back to qualifying or if you missed qualifying this morning, most drivers only got one chance at a flying lap. A few of the front runners did get a second one, but because of a big accident, that was about it in terms of drivers' ability to really lay it out there and go for pole. And as a consequence, you mentioned it, we've got a mixed up grid, some really fast cars starting towards the back, some cars that maybe are flattering to deceive a little bit with their starting positions, but it should make for a fun race.
Well, as we see them lined up now, they're getting ready to start on their pace laps here today. They'll get two of those before they're sent off for 35 minutes plus one lap. As we said, we've already seen some accidents so far this weekend, so this is proving to be quite the treacherous circuit.
It has, definitely. And look, we know that coming in, this is a track that has that reputation. All you have to do is take a track walk around the place, and you realize very quickly you've got Armco barriers waiting for you on just about every side of this racetrack. And that's caught a few people out so far this weekend, but the other side of it is fast, it is flowing, it's a really fun place with a ton of history. If you can have a good run at this place, you've done something special, and it's something to celebrate for sure.
Couple stories to watch out for. That continual battle between Ashley Freiberg and Jared Thomas rages on as she was only able to get 2 laps in, and so was Jared Thomas. But again, not necessarily representative of what their pace will be in the race itself, especially since we know that Ashley was quicker in free practice too. So she might still have something over him. And then, of course, Paul Bocuse is always in that mix as well. We'll see if he can finally take that first win of the season, which he's still looking for. Down in the Masters category, the big one is that it's been more mixed up, but Mark Bowden has been leading for some time now in the points, and yet he is way down in the order, Ryan, so this might be one that will take a bite out of his championship lead.
Well, that's definitely a prospect here. We'll see what he could do to recover, but when we talk about the mixed-up grid, his name is one of those that we talked about at the end of qualifying. That said, a bunch of very fast cars at the front. Jared Thomas, like you talked about, he's been quick all year. He's on pole again, and he'll have Ashley Freiberg alongside. Ashley's happy to have a front row start here after having to start at the very back in both races at VIR. Good bounce back for her in qualifying. Paul Bocuse, who's had second in points coming in Pro-Am, he'll start third. Next to Scott Blind, who told me earlier this weekend he quickly has grown to love Watkins Glen, and he's been very, very quick so far here this weekend. Conrad Geis had a good bounce-back weekend at VIR, a weekend that started with a crash, but he put together a couple of good results there. He'll start fifth today next to Rob Walker, one of the Masters runners for GTR Motorsports Engineering. Row number 4 belongs to John Gilliland out of the Masters class. Next to Dave Musial 2.0 for Forward Motorsports, a 992 Pro-Am class competitor. And we'll round out the top 10. Row number 5, Joel Johnson and Niels Meissner, the pole sitter in the 991 class. Tony Melito's been hot on his heels in recent races, but he's got some work to do to come back through the field after struggles in qualifying.
Dave Musial Sr. is going to be starting in the 11th spot. He'll have Eric Lapp next to him to round out row number 6. And then we get to another driver that is a little bit out of position. Therese Lalu is all the way down in 13th with Tony Melito second in that 991 class, starting to her outside for Fall Line Motorsports. You see Shane Leather starting in 15th overall. He'll have Grady Willingham next to him. Grady looking forward to this race, it seems, and positive spirits heading into today's event. Patrick Womack will then be starting on the inside of the next row in 17th, and Tim Kesman, who also we're expecting to be able to climb forwards, will start from 18th as he's been showing quickly at VIR and COTA. Mark Bowden will start in the 19th position, and then Craig Conway returns to us for the first time since Barber Motorsports Park, Ryan.
Yeah, good to see Craig back, that's for sure. He'll start in the 20th spot. Back to the next row where you find Thomas Herb and John Manship. That's row 11, positions 21 and 22. Row 12 belongs to Nicholas Groombridge, who's making his debut for the season here this weekend. Frank Vitiello alongside from the JDX team. Alessio Chiocchetti back in the 25th spot, and Francisco de Jesus alongside. Then it's Charles Craig and Gregory Shermer in row 14. Row 15 belongs to Jody Miller, and here comes the field, Joe. We're about to get this race started.
35 minutes plus 1 lap for race number 1 of the weekend as Jared Thomas has control of the field, and it's a good start up at the front. Green flag is out. They run down into the 90 blend already, easing over to the right-hand side with Geis down there. He'll give him a little bit of space. It is a battle for second as Paul Bocuse and Ashley Freiberg will dice for that P2.
Bocuse gets the spot. That's the black car up and around the white and red machine. Bocuse from third on the grid into second behind Jared Thomas, the man he's chasing in the championship. You mentioned Scott Blind. He's embroiled in a battle right there as well. We saw Rob Walker take a look around the outside in turn 1, had to back out of it. Blind's got a run. He's running right behind this pack and looks like he might be set to slot in the 5th overall position. I do believe he got that move made. That's the pole sitter in the Masters class of the 992s.
So it looks like Conrad going to find himself in that 4th spot for the time being as they head down into the chute. And looks like Blind did not actually get that one done as that bright yellow car is still behind. They'll go through the laces and down into the toe of the boot. Thankfully, knocking on wood, it looks like we do have a pretty clean start for the first lap of this race as the rest of the field now heads back uphill.
Yeah, you're quite right. I think it might have actually been John Gilliland who started 7th overall, but if I'm not mistaken, I think that's the car that's made its way up to 5th overall into the class lead in the Masters. That's something to keep an eye on. We'll do that as the cars exit the boot for the first time. Thomas continues to show the way, but he does have Paul Bocuse hot on his heels, and Ashley Freiberg settling into her rhythm. She runs in the 3rd spot.
Thomas wanting to get back up to the top step here and continue his winning streak that he's now had for a little bit, only interrupted at Circuit of the Americas. Otherwise, he's been incredibly dominant. He'll lead the first lap around. Paul moves himself up into 2nd in that first lap. Freiberg down to 3rd. Conrad still in P4. So that MDK team, 2nd and 4th, looking excellent. Gilliland, you were right, is now our leader in the Masters.
Yeah, great job by him, making up a couple of spots there on the start. Very opportunistic to make that pass before they even got to the inner loop for the first time. So he leads the way, but he's under some pressure. That bright yellow car, that's the pole sitter in Masters, and it's got to run right now. And the fight for the lead in Masters coming into the inner loop here. Gilliland in the car that's kind of painted up to look like a cow a little bit. Well, not just a little bit, actually, a lot like a cow. And Scott Blend in that bright yellow Ruckus Racing car right behind. This is a battle for the class lead.
Joel Johnson in there. We can't forget about him. He's had lots of good results. In fact, I think he has the most wins in the Masters class this season at 3. Nobody else has reached that number. But he had a bad race last time out at VIR, bad couple races, actually. And he'll want to try and recoup that because, I mean, based on what we've been seeing out of him, other than that last weekend, I have to think that he could be a serious threat to catch up to Bowden as well. It all depends on how Watkins Glen goes for him as they head through the heel of the boot. Geis looks like he's dropping a little bit back and forth.
Yeah, he's lost touch with the top 3, that's for sure, but still getting settled into his rhythm. Still very young in his racing career, just getting started here this year, but has been coming on strong in recent weeks. You were talking about Joel Johnson earlier, and he does have those 3 wins, but it has been a feast or famine season for him. Finishes of 19th and 15th in the first 2 races of the year at Sebring, and then 24th the last time out at VIR, which broke a string of 4 consecutive podiums from race 2 at Birmingham to race 1 at VIR. He finished no worse than 2nd. Had a couple of poles in that run there as well, but unfortunately too many bad results have really doomed his championship bid, at least at this stage in the season. He's looking to turn that around, though.
We're watching Lalu out here, now up into 12th position, so she's gained at least 1 so far, but right now I believe she's chasing on Niels Meissner, who is again in that 991, so not a car in the same class as we come back to our fight for the lead in the Masters. Blend sits 2nd in the points, and with his main rival that he's trying to catch farther back, how much does he fight this one? Does he want maximum points out here today?
I'd say he does, purely because, yes, he's 2nd, but he's 64 points out of the championship lead. That's a pretty big margin to have to overcome, so you're looking to maximize your points wherever you can to try and make up that deficit. Ooh. My goodness, that was awfully close. Nip and tuck there in the laces of the boot, and I think discretion, the better part of valor. Ultimately, we saw that bright-colored car jump out of that attacking maneuver and settle back in line. That could have ended very badly.
That was Therese, I think, trying to get by Niels and unfortunately unable to do so. These are one of the rare cases we've got this weekend of 2 actual different cars between the classes, as Niels running the 991, from what I understand, have a little bit longer braking zones. So she thought maybe she could get in there and kind of edge him out of the way.
Now, there's a reason for that, of course. The 991 class, they use the older generation 991.2 Porsche GT3 Cup car, and it does not have the same degree of let's call them electronic aids available to the drivers that the newer version 992 cars do. So you will see longer braking zones, make a little bit less downforce as well. That downforce does help slow the car into the braking zone. So you would think that would be an advantage for the newer cars. They also have a bit more power, so they should be able to scoot by it if you've got a long enough straightaway. But as we've seen all year long with the likes of Niels Meissner and Tony Bolito both, a well-driven 991 car can mix it up inside the top 10 overall.
Certainly can, and that's really what's helped Niels out tremendously is he's been able to keep away from all of his rivals. There was a big look coming up into the inner loop by Scott Blend, but couldn't get the overlap in there. He's got to watch out. Joel Johnson is keeping himself very tucked up behind that bright yellow machine, ready to pick up the pieces if he makes an ill-fated move.
Yeah, that's a really fun battle. Top three in the class, running effectively nose to tail. Gilliland, Blind, and Johnson, 5th, 6th, and 7th overall, but leading in that Masters category. It's merely an age distinction to separate the Pro-Ams from the Masters. The cars are identical 992 Cup cars.
But obviously that means that you can get quite the mix-up out here because of that on the track. So we will see drivers having to kind of wager whether or not they want to risk battling that car that is not in their class and will not take or give them points depending on where they are, but they could be useful to them in their fights with others within their own class. Meanwhile, up at the front, looking quite spread out and also extremely familiar, Jared Thomas leading Paul Bocuse, leading Ashley Freiberg. I need to see how many times we've had that podium in that order.
Yeah, more than once, I think it's safe to say. Thomas has been the dominant force in the championship, and it does seem like more often than not, Paul's been the one nipping at his heels. But Ashley's been there in the mix, too. Of course, the reigning 991 champion making the move up, and Bocuse himself a former champion of a year ago, but that was in the Cayman class. So he's making that big step into the Cup cars for this year and has been super consistent, as he was a year ago, just amassing podiums. Last year, that was enough for him to win a title with just the one race win. But here this year, with Jared Thomas taking the lion's share of the wins and Bocuse yet to break through for that first win, it's been a different story as far as the championship points are concerned.
So I checked, and it's happened 3 times, it looks like, with the 3 of them in that order. But Thomas versus Bocuse, they finished 1-2 5 times this season. So we'll go and talk to Paul every once in a while and see how he feels about things. And, I mean, he seems happy enough getting these second places. But, man, I can only imagine the frustration how many times he's been P2 in this series.
Well, I guess the good news is he went through this a year ago, and he saw that staying patient and staying with your program was enough to give him the championship that he was looking for. And I think he has to look at this as an opportunity to learn. Jared Thomas is still a young man himself, but he has years and years of racing in single-make series, whether it's MX-5s or here in Porsche Sprint Challenge. He's also done some GT4 racing. He's got all of this experience to draw upon. Paul does have a rich karting history in his native Florida, but in terms of actually driving cars, last year was that big step for him as he jumped into the Caymans, and this year another step further up in competition level and machinery with these Cup cars.
Saw a big move down into the heel of the boot there. I was trying to figure out if that was Mark Bowden, actually, in that blue machine that was able to get by and what position that would wind up putting him in at this stage. We'll see as they come to the line and our timing and scoring updates as they cross past the flag stand. It is the 297, it looks like, in a nice little battle here. And no, that was not Bowden, I don't think. That was actually Craig Conway going by, or am I seeing that? I must have the wrong number there.
Well, I'm not sure I can answer that question, but I will say we talked about Mark Bowden early being out of position in terms of his qualifying results, and he's been on the move. He's already up to 17th overall, 7th in class. The next target for him is Eric Lapp, who's out of class. He needs to get by Eric to get up to 15th to take the fight to Tim Kesman for 6th in class. And while we're talking about Eric Lapp briefly, I did want to mention we had Alex Sedgwick with us in the booth for the Cayman race, and he pointed out to me that we'll see him in one of these weekends coming up at Road America. He'll be part of that endurance series, driving with Eric Lapp. That's who he's helping to coach, and really looking forward to the chance to get behind the wheel and take part in one of these new endurance races, that new Endurance Challenge Championship that got started this year back in May at Circuit of the Americas.
Yep, apologies. I got my numbers mixed up. So 297 is Eric Lapp. Conway's 279. But this is our leader still in the 296 of Jared Thomas. Very appropriate. And the sort of Star-Spangled Banner car that he's got here July 4th weekend coming across the line to lead another lap. Paul still about a second off of him, so he's not letting him get away completely. Ashley about 3 seconds off of the leader, so slightly more distant behind them. The three continue to stretch out their lead at the front of the field. I'm seeing that we've got a message from race control saying incident between cars 210 and 249 will be reviewed post-race. We'll see if we can find out. That's Jody Miller and the likes of Kia Ketty. So we didn't see what happened between them. We'll see if we can figure that out a little bit later on in this race. Down the hill they go once again into the chute with Jared Thomas continuing to lead Paul Bocuse in that number 271 JTR versus MDK.
Two great teams. MDK, for several years now, we've seen them racing single-make Porsches in various championships, and that affiliation with Porsche runs deep. But they've also got cars that race in the LMP2 category, in both IMSA as well as overseas in European Le Mans Series in conjunction with the high-class racing team. They've really grown in a short amount of time. JTR, on the other side of things, they've been primarily focused on single-make Mazda racing, but have expanded in recent years into Porsches as well, and we've seen them competing in both GT4 competition and IMSA as well as here in Porsche Sprint Challenge. So two relatively young teams, but very much on the rise and making their name in this type of single-make racing.
On board with Niels Meissner, part of that extensive Kelly Moss team out here competing. He's right behind Dave Musial Sr. for Forward Motorsports. The 226, though, is part of our 992 Masters, whereas Niels, as we mentioned, racing in the 991s. So he is not racing him for points, but he's sticking with him for now. Credit to Tony Melito. He's only got two cars between himself and Niels right now. I don't know the exact distance between them, but it does look like it's at least a couple seconds. Let's see whether or not he can dispose of Shane Leathers and Therese Lalu and get a little bit closer, as we got a nice little fight heading down into the 90. And as the 210 manages to slice inside, I believe that's going to put Jody Miller up now into at least 20th place, rather.
On the subject of Melito and his efforts to run down Meissner, it's about 5.5 seconds at last check and a couple of cars in between. The thing that's super impressive about what Melito has done is, remember, this is a 991 car, an older car, and he has had to work his way past out-of-class newer generation Porsche machines that have advantages in straight line speed and in braking, like we talked about. When you have disadvantages in one of those two things, it makes overtaking difficult. He's got disadvantages in both, and yet he's been able to try and close that gap, and he's now within striking distance, I think it's safe to say, with 20 minutes to go. It's not a foregone conclusion that Niels is going to run away with this, and Meissner's been chipping away at an early points deficit. It's not actually that far apart, only 20-odd points, I think 26 between the two of them coming into the weekend.
That was a really close move there, coming through the toe of the boot. Somebody managing to just barely get inside. Couldn't quite make out who that was, but we've got this four-car battle in between them, and they might be joined by a couple drivers from behind as well as they go up through turn 9, and that was very wide for the Blue Machine up at the front. Does not lose the position, but has made himself vulnerable.
It's the quarter we were talking about during the Cayman broadcast with Alex Sedgwick, and you expressed your consternation surrounding that quarter in your sim racing career, and I would totally back you up on that. And it was actually really refreshing to hear Alex say, yeah, I can't figure that quarter out either. And he just won the Carrera Cup race here a couple of weeks ago.
Makes you feel a little bit better.
A lot better.
About the things that we try to do. Oh, boy, things are getting dicey down into the 90 once again. Now they head up through the S's. This pack in the middle here has been a lot of fun to watch. but they're going to have to get it sorted out soon once they get up into the inner loop. It is very single file through here as we actually watch Meissner go through there as well.
He is right behind Dave Musial Sr., 1.0. You can see the commitment level from Niels. This long duration right-hand corner, little micro corrections with the steering wheel, keeping that car under control. This is that corner here now, looking from up above as we find this battle pack yet again. I can tell you the car at the back, the red one, is Tony Melito. So that's Shane Leathers and Therese Lalu ahead of him. And then we'll have to wait and see who's in that other group. But that's the pack we're looking at, just outside the top 10.
Coming down into the toe of the boot. They're going to stay single file, although maybe not for all that long, as there was another little poke down to the inside. But no dice, unfortunately, at that stage. That may have been Shane Leathers trying to see if he can get through. Now they switch back and head up into turn 9. Let's see if they can manage to keep it a little bit tighter down to the inside, leaving the door open slightly up at the front, but he's able to shut it just in time.
While this is happening, no change at the front. Jared Thomas continues to lead by 1.3 seconds, and the battle is a good one still in the Masters class between Gilliland and Blinn. They've been separated by under a second for seemingly the entire race, with 17 and a half minutes plus 1 lap still to go.
So this looks to be the battle farther down. This is Conway chasing as he's got Grady Willingham in front of him. Eric Lapp is in that blue machine that has been trying to keep from being attacked at the most vulnerable spots.
We've got car 248 off course, drivers left.
So I think Vitiello has gone off into turn 1, it sounds like. Should be able to carry on as he's still stationary right now.
Yeah, I think this is a car I just misidentified as Melito. It was Vitiello, excuse me.
248 is continuing. Turn 1 is clear.
Good to see he's able to carry on, but apologies for that.
29 cars out there, and there's some great battles going on throughout, so easy to get some of these confused as we've come back to blend now. Still sitting stuck in that second place as John Gilliland is going to try and beat him to the line, and we're about halfway through this race as well. So John's been doing a good job holding down the fort up at the front, as meanwhile behind Lalu got a little bit of a change for position there. That may have been Leathers and Kesman, I think, swapping spots.
Interesting. Well, it's a fierce battle anywhere you look. Talking about John Gilliland leading in the Masters class, we discussed the fact that there have been 4 different winners this year in that class, but John's not one of them. He's third in points, but his best finish is a brace of runner-up finishes. So for Gilliland, this would be a big, big day if he can hang on. But it's, again, not a foregone conclusion by any stretch of the imagination. He's got company right behind him.
You're not the only one mixing up cars. That was Leathers actually going by Meissner, so I think he was letting them through to allow them to kind of fight one another, and he won't get involved in that one. Great call on his part. This is his perspective up ahead to the pair of them. Lalu trying to run away. She's gotten herself up into 11th overall, but the good news for her is that she's, I think, 5th in the Pro-Am class. I'll double check. I think 5th is her best finish as of yet this season.
Therese comes in having finished 6th in the USA West Championship a year ago in the 992 Pro-Am. So many of these tracks here on the East Coast, it's her first time coming to. I'm not sure if she's been to Watkins Glen before. I know VIR was a first time for her, and she was eyes wide open when I talked to her that weekend there. This place has some similarities, so I do wonder how she's enjoying it, but having a decent run, all things considered.
I mean, this elicited the same response when I talked to her. This is her first time here, and I said, "This is a doozy of a track." She said, "Absolutely, it is." We got a car going off a little bit coming out of the chute and into the laces. Looks like they just kicked up dust, as I don't see anybody stranded by the side of the road. That's another spot you've mentioned, Ryan. There are many places where there's just not much runoff between the edge of the track and the barriers.
Yeah, it's a tough place, that's for sure. There are a few sections of the track where some paved runoff has been added. This is one of them right here. And those are parts of the track that race control will keep a close eye on to make sure everyone stays within the prescribed track limits. Haven't heard too much about that so far in this race, so credit to the race drivers for keeping those cars where they're supposed to be, effectively in bounds.
And this is Willingham that we were watching on board with. Looks like that battle is carrying on between himself and Conway, actually. So Conway must have passed him on this lap and gotten ahead, because last time across they were showing us in reverse order. So as they go through, no, Conway's actually got Jody Miller in behind him. Boy, we are just a horrible strike rate of identification today, and that was a great run actually by Jody coming off of the 90.
And this is big for Jody. Remember, he had the crash in qualifying, and they've had to go to a spare chassis, as I understand it, for the race here today. I have that right, correct?
Yes, I believe so. That's definitely different from the car that he wrecked, so I'm pretty sure he's hopped into a different machine. And, yep, we're getting confirmation in our ears. That is a different chassis that is racing. And credit to Jody. We've seen not only him, but Scalzo over in the Caymans hop into cars after pretty massive accidents and just pick up exactly where they left off.
My understanding for Jody is that the team had a car that's usually used in Carrera Cup competition sitting around ready to go, or at least had previously been used for that. And so they were able to make that switch over. And our great race steward, Elliot Forbes Robinson, I know went down there to check in with Jody, and Elliot EFR reported back that Jody was keen to get back in the race car and get back at it. It was a scary one. Coming onto the front straightaway, sounds like he might have just kissed the wall on corner exit, and it shot him back across the track and actually caught those barrels that effectively form a pit lane attenuator to prevent you from hitting that concrete wall at the pointy angle, basically. Those barrels did exactly what they were supposed to do. They arrested the speed. He was okay. The damage, while significant, could have been a whole lot worse if not for those barrels. And credit to the crew here at Watkins Glen for making sure to cover any of those dangerous parts of the walls with barriers, whether it's tires or, in that case, those barrels filled with sand.
We've seen an interesting development here with the lead. That is the 296 of Thomas, and he's approaching lap traffic now. That's Charles Craig that he's just getting up behind. In fact, I think it looks like he'll be able to overtake him on the sole of the boot. And yes, he is very easily by. But I mean, that has affected races in the past in this series, the lap traffic. It is very much a skill that you have to earn and learn how to deal with them and make clean overtakes without making yourself open to attack.
Yeah, definitely, and that's something that we'll have seen Jared Thomas with plenty of experience with. Paul Boku's a little bit less experience, of course, but he'll be learning those lessons, and he'll look to take advantage of that opportunity, if at all possible.
He's going to lead another lap around with about 11 minutes plus one lap left to go. And Boku's just trailing behind now by 2 seconds. He's starting to lose a little bit more. But we're joined by a special friend here from the Caymans. Whoa, that was a car off there. Just outside of the 90, but off of the racing line. As I was going to say, we have Jim Johnson joining us. Welcome up to the booth, Jim, as you've caught us in a bit of an exciting moment, it looks like.
Yeah. Hey, how y'all doing, man?
Excellent. Hey, good run for you earlier today. Good top five, right?
Right, man, that was great. It was a good time. Yeah.
It's wonderful to have you here with us. It looks like that's Francisco de Jesus in strife. He was running towards the back. And just looking, I would imagine, for a safe way to rejoin this race. It's tough when the field's all strung out like this. There might not be a ton of gaps. But as you hear from Morgan Healy there, the directive is use all the runoff that you need there in turn one, and there's plenty of it to try and get yourself righted.
Place you can get in trouble coming in there, getting back on track. Got to be careful there.
Certainly, it's one where I don't think they want drivers going back into the racing line unless they're fully pointed the right way, because you are barreling out of the 90 for sure, out of turn one, trying to carry your speed up to that backstretch.
That's right, yeah.
Now, Jim, important question. Should we be referring to you as Jim or DJ Jealous J?
Oh, yeah. That's the 80s and 90s deal there. That was a fun time in my life. Jim is better.
Okay. As you hear, we were full course yellow, and that erases the lead that Jared Thomas had started to build in that traffic over Paul Bocuse.
Car 296, we need you at safety car speed, please. Car 296, safety car speed. You'll get the safety car at the exit of turn 1.
Instructions there for Jared so that he picks up the safety car. So DeJesus must have had maybe a little bit more than what we initially thought was a spin, because he can't seem to get that car going.
Jared Thomas out there in the stealth fighter, eh? He's fast.
He is. Has been all year.
Yeah, he's really fast.
How much do you
All right, everyone, car
pay
121
attention to
remains drivers
the
left at
9
the
or
exit
the
of
911
turn 1.
races,
Let's
the
get
Cup
all cars
races,
to
or are
back
you
up,
pretty well
please. All
focused on
cars
your
back up.
program in the Caymans?
Pretty focused on the Caymans, but I do, I love to watch them when we're out here at these races. It's really interesting to see the difference in speed,
Car
and
121
talent
is preparing
as well
to
as
continue
really
on his
talented
own.
drivers out there. Not better than us, though.
Of course not. And we would never insinuate such a thing.
Car 121 is now
Looks like
continuing
he's going to be able to get it
slowly
moving
from
and
turn 1.
turned
Let's get all
around
cars to back
now
up,
that
please.
we've got
All
this
cars
yellow
back
out. So
up.
it should be a pretty short caution period. But while we do have the time,
Turn 1
Jim,
is clear.
let's talk about something that I believe we've mentioned a bit on air during your race, that you've been celebrating the release of a new song with the celebration of our nation's birthday this weekend. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we have a song called Damn I Love America with J. Michael Phillips. I just produced that with him under the Fuel by 808 banner. That's the artist deal, the new Jealous J, if you will. So, yeah, that actually comes out next week. We had it on this podcast called On the Radar, and J. Michael performed in Nashville, and they released it last night. So it's exciting. I think it's a great song, and it's perfect for this weekend. We got the car wrapped in the flag livery, United States, America, all that stuff. So thought it would be good.
So it sounds like we'll get to listen to a little bit of it in a second. Here it is here. Let's listen.
Sipping cold Coors Light on a Sunday night is America. It's real as hometown pride. It's some apple pie. It's America. And with an open mind, we can live our lives in America.
So, Jim, how much do you have to juggle between your racing career and your music career? Is that difficult, switching back and forth like that?
It hasn't been lately. I've been working on music a long time, so racing is sort of, it's like the mistress to my music career, if you will. I took a break from racing. I haven't raced, since 2016, really, but I got back into it a couple of years ago, and it's a different time for me in music as well. My schedule's not as busy as it once was, and I'm just careful of who I work with and when I work and all the things. I have a family of 4 kids and all that, so I try to juggle it, but it's been working out great, and I'm so happy that it is.
Looks like we're going back to green here, and look at how close Paul was to Jared Thomas. He is not letting him get away. Neither is Ashley Freiberg, who is back there as well. Is he going to get a chance to do anything into the 90? No, he is not close enough to get alongside. All 3 of them nose to tail still, Ryan, as they now fly up the hill.
It's been a day of first wins. Carolyn Conda got her first win in her sprint challenge career earlier today. That was in the Cayman race. Alan Scalzo got his first win of the season. Looks like we've got an incident back in turn 1 of the restart. Oh, that was the leader. I was about to say we might have another first-time winner shaping up.
298 has continued. Turn 1 is clear.
Wow.
Oh, 3 wide moment there. That was some breathtaking stuff. Looked like a couple wheels in the grass even. I think that might be... Well, there is a car certainly off the pace there in the mid-pack that had everybody bunched up heading toward the inner loop.
I believe that was Willingham and the white and black stripes on that car, so hopefully he's got everything up and running. No, he's still looking a little slow as he's got cars going around either side. I wonder if there is some sort of technical problem happening.
There definitely is something amiss, and everyone's bottled up behind him. Doing a pretty good job, actually, to work their way through. This is a tough place to go side by side, and they found a way to make it work. All of it happening behind Jared Thomas, who continues to hold the advantage. 5 minutes to go.
I just saw Craig Conway make a huge move on the inside, and somebody kicking up some dirt coming off of the toe of the boot as well.
Turn 7, car 298 has stopped at the entrance of turn 7.
So sounds like John Gilliland unable to keep the car going here. So turn 7, I believe, is actually the toe of the boot. Is it not?
Yeah, I think that's right. So he was able to make it that far, but right now the car just won't go any further. Really hope he can get that to a safe spot so we can keep going here. Under 4 minutes to go, plus 1 lap.
He's showing is still stationary on our track map right now here in the booth, so really hoping he can get that one out of the way. Otherwise, this is going to have to finish under caution.
And that promotes Scott Blinn to the lead in the Masters class, but Dave Musial Sr. finds himself up to second in class all of a sudden, seventh overall. Joel Johnson would complete the podium.
Remains driver's right, entrance of turn 7.
That's as they run here. Bocuse looking threatening for the first time in a few laps here. He certainly would like this to stay green. He's going to have to make this move quickly.
So wonder if they will throw that yellow. They said that car remains driver's right, so maybe it's just out of the firing line some way. We'll get a picture of it here as we watch from the Yokohama blimp. Right now, Jared Thomas leading, Bocuse leading Freiburg. It's been that
yellow,
way, and there we go. There is the full course yellow.
You are a leader, safety car speed. Let's see, heads up, guys, as we enter turn 7. Car 298 is on the right of the entry of turn 7.
That has got to be so gutting for Gilliland. I can only imagine. Have you ever had that situation, Jim, where you're leading and the car fails you that way?
Running out of gas or something like that in an endurance race? Yes, I've been there. That's no fun.
The highs of this sport are as high as they come, but the lows are pretty gut-wrenching.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, today I thought I was getting on that podium. I thought, hey, I'm in 4th in Masters right now. Here we go. I just couldn't get Finnick out of the way. You know, this guy is tough competitor.
He's doing real well considering how new to this he is.
That's right, yeah. His first year of racing. Doesn't make me look good saying that.
Hey, but you've been out of the seat for so long. It might as well be the first year, right?
He's fast, though. Good competitor. We had a clean race.
Joel Johnson finds himself in 3rd in that class in what looks like will be a finish under yellow. The pace car has picked up the leader. We'll see when they give the call for the white. I imagine it'll be next time by, unless they can clear that car extremely quickly and get us going, in which case it would be just a 1-lap shootout, most likely, for the remaining cars. Both races so far have certainly seen a couple pauses.
With the 298.
Got a little bit more instruction there from race control, but didn't quite make out what they were saying about the 298.
That track services is there and attending to that car, so
Gotcha.
that means they're working on the cleanup at this stage. And with any luck, maybe we can get around and get a restart in. We will soon see. But we do have Jim Johnson with us, who was racing at the Cabot race earlier. We talked a little bit about your music career, your DJ career, and then into this award-winning producer, songwriter career that you're in now. Worked with some huge names over the course of your career in the music industry, but who were some of your heroes in that industry that inspired you to pursue that as a career?
I liked producers. I always, looked up to producers that, got together these amazing artists with the right players and bands and writers. So I always liked that. Rick Rubin is an idol, I look up to him. I think he's incredible. Quincy Jones, Timbaland, probably one of the best to do it in the field that I was in, hip-hop, R&B, pop music,
Safety car, lights
Dr.
out.
Dre, stuff like that. The artist side of it, I love working with artists, but behind the scenes and with the songwriters and musicians, it's the best part of it. And no disrespect to any of the artists. It's just more fun.
And the safety car lights are
it's
out.
like the pit crew, you know what I mean?
Sure. Well, it looks like we are going to get our restart after all, which is wonderful news. There might be a cutout right there. I think there is, top of screen right. And that's where the stricken car will be taken. And that gives us a chance at
left.
One
as
more
you
lap.
pass the car.
All right, what are you
Oh.
doing in the car right now? And you know you got a one-lap shootout.
If I'm in first or second, I'm going, why? No, it's exciting. I love restarts. You know, it gives you a chance to pick up some, spots. But some people that are in those positions are probably thinking different. You know, the other drivers like Jared Thomas, what if something goes wrong and Ashley passes both of us, Paul, and I think that'd be on my mind.
They're going to be hungry drivers, no doubt. And Conrad Geis is back there in fourth. I'm sure he wants to get himself another podium. Dave Musial 2.0. Poor Scott Blend now has Dave Musial Sr. behind him. Scott's looking for his first win for some time. I think Barber was the last time he was up at the top there. Yeah, race number 1, as they are very quickly on the loud pedal, and Jared Thomas leads us back to green with a one-lap shootout here for race 1 at Watkins Glen International. Ashley either going defensive or maybe thinking about trying to pass Paul, her former teammate. Either case, she stays as she was in P3. Looks like Blend is able to hold on to that sixth overall position as well there, Ryan.
Better restart, it looked like, for Thomas. Bocuse dropped back, but now he's got to run. He's got a big head of steam coming up the hill through the S's and looking threatening again. He's been close a couple of times, but not close enough to make a move. We'll see if he can do it this time at the inner loop. Thomas certainly feels like he's under threat.
He covers him off, not able to get the overlap. Paul stays in behind. He's got to watch out for Ashley back there, because if he tries to make an attack, he could leave himself open to her managing to sneak underneath. Meanwhile, Conrad Geis also there. He is pushing hard, taking it all the way out to the edge of the carousel. Now back into the boot section. Did Paul use up his chance there on the backstretch? Can he get back up onto him?
He's closing in, but he's got to play defense here as well as offense. Ashley Freiberg looking like she's getting in her groove here on the restart too. Just running out of time, running out of places to maybe make that pass and give a call to Conrad Geis, who's hanging tough with that top 3.
And I'm trying to double check behind them. I think maybe Musial Sr. Did in fact get by Blend. Was trying to make out which car I was looking at here from above, but as they come out of turn 9, it's going to be very difficult to try and overtake from here. Jared Thomas has control. He's got a couple car lengths ahead. He has been taking win after win this season. But with the red, white, and blue on the number 296 for America's birthday, it's going to be victory for Jared Thomas.
That was exciting stuff there.
Great run for him at the end. As they cross the line, it looks like Blend will hold on to the lead in that 245 machine. It was Dave Musial 2.0 that was actually ahead of him and not his dad.
Turn 9, car 121 is stopped at turn 9.
So we got a car off in turn 9. Didn't quite make out who that was. May have been De Jesus again.
Turn 11, car 248 is off course drivers left at the exit of turn 11.
Vitiello in the 248. So definitely some more drama right there at the end, but it gave us quite the exciting finish. And Ryan, I'm sure that Scott is going to be thrilled that he's finally back on the top step.
Yeah, I talked to Scott earlier in the weekend, like I said, and he loves coming here. He loves this racetrack. And he told me, it's the tracks that you come to and have success that you love, or maybe it's vice versa. We're not entirely sure which way it is. Does the success follow because you love the track, or do you love the track because of the success? Well, regardless, it was a great start to the weekend for him with that race win, his second on the season, and that will help him claw back into the points battle and what has been an ultra-competitive Masters class to this point in the season. We've dispatched Joe Peak down to victory lane. He'll be handling podium duties here in just a few moments. We'll take a look at provisional results as right now we look at the stranded car of Frank Vitiello on the track, less than a quarter away, basically, right, from taking the checkered flag. So close and yet so far. You can see where you're trying to go, but you can't get there.
Yeah, that's a shame. That's a shame. But those things happen. Could have had some malfunction in the car, electronics. Someone might have, ran into him. Who knows?
Yeah, we'll get to the bottom of that after the race tonight. Report back on it in our race coverage tomorrow. Jim, you've got another race coming up tomorrow. Strong day today. How do you do a couple positions better and get up on that podium in race 2?
Just get out of my head and get into the race. And, I think tomorrow's earlier. I think the conditions will be a little different. But it's a great track, a great place to race. And I'm going to just do whatever I can to do better.
And you talked about being out of the driver's seat for quite some time. You had your choice, presumably, of where you would go and race.
Yeah.
What made you choose Porsche Sprint Challenge, and what has the experience been like?
For one, I love Porsche, and then two, the competitiveness here. The competition here is great. I love going to IMSA races and doing the Michelin Pilot Cup, and I did the VP Challenge race there in Daytona this year. But this is different. Everyone's in the same car. We have all the same toolkit, right? It's the driver, really. Of course, the crew, they do a lot for you. Not taking anything away from that. Car setup, all that. But it's really nice to have the same weapon and everyone gets in the fight,
At the end of the day, if you do a good job, you did something special.
That's right. You really worked hard, and also it's just a great group of people here. The camaraderie and meet new friends and old friends.
A very pleasant place to come to play or to work. As Jared Thomas pulls into victory lane here at Watkins Glen International. Great drive from him, just adding to that win total, extending the points lead. This is now the 6th race that he has finished ahead of Paul Bocuse in a 1-2 result. So Paul's got to be tired of that by this point, but
yeah, absolutely.
He'll go to work tomorrow and try and do what better. We can take a look, I believe, at our provisional results for race number 1. Jared Thomas, Paul Bocuse, Ashley Freiberg, the podium. That is either the 3rd or 4th time that's been the podium this year in that particular order. Conrad Geis had a really nice day today, as did the Musials, father and son. Musial 2.0 in 5th overall and in class. Scott Blend gets the win in the Masters class, just ahead of Dave 1.0. Therese Lalou, great result for Therese. She's up in the 8th spot in her first ever race here at Watkins Glen. Then it's Joel Johnson and Shane Leathers rounding out the top 10 overall. Rob Walker and Niels Meissner, that's where you find your winner in the 991 category, down in 12th overall. Another win for Niels, extending his points lead over Tony Melito, who finishes in 15th. Overall, 2nd in class. Patrick Womack, Jody Miller recovering from his accident earlier today to finish in 17th. Craig Conway was certainly in the fight today. We saw him a number of times with some big moves. Finishes 18th. Grady Willingham and Alessandro Chiocchetti rounding out the top 20. So, Jim, we'll turn you loose. Thank you so much for coming up and joining us. Thank you for sharing your new song with us as well. I guess we'll ask one last question. I think you hinted at it. Maybe you could tell us a little more. Are we going to see some camera crews at Road America for the next round? Something related to both racing and the music?
Yes, we're going to have a crew out there doing some B-roll for the music video.
That's really
for
cool.
Damn, I Love America. So, yeah, come on out and get yourself in the video. We're hoping that Jay Michaels will be out there as well. He's the artist. I'm pretty sure he will be, and it'll be fun. We'll do some barbecuing and music filming and racing.
Can't wait. Looking forward to it. But before we get there, best of luck to you tomorrow in race number 2.
Great, man. Thank you.
My pleasure. That is Jim Johnson, who finished, I believe it was 4th today in the Cayman race in his class. And I really do appreciate him taking the time to come and join myself and Joe. We will take a quick pause here, and when we come back, it will be Joe Peak with our podium celebration for the Cup Class race number 1 of the weekend here at Watkins Glen.
Don't get the label black sheep without doing something to earn it. Black sheep aren't bad, they just stand out from the crowd. They look at the status quo and say, we can do that better. And that's exactly what we do.
Big move down the inside for
the
lead
Lord,
from
Eli takes the lead.
This is going to come down to the finish. Kyle almost side by side, but a good exit will give Laura Eli the win here overall in the first round of the Porsche Sprint Challenge USA West Series.
It's hard to contain your excitement when you get something you've really wanted. Like the gold standard in automotive protection, WeatherTech floor liners. With deep sculpted channels and laser measured for total protection in the front, back, and even up the sides.
Dad, you're going viral.
What? WeatherTech me.
So don't be shy, enjoy. Order your premium American-made products at WeatherTech.com.
Back at Watkins Glen, it is now time for Porsche Sprint Challenge North America Podium celebrations. Let's head trackside to Joe Peak.
Thanks, Ryan. Porsche Sprint Challenge North America GT3 Cup celebrates our podium finishers, starting, of course, with the 991 class, finishing in third today. In the number 161, it's Thomas Herb. Then in second, driving the 127, it's Tony Melito. And our winner for the 991 class, driving the number 152, Niels Meissner. Congratulations, Niels. Another victory added on this season. It's getting late into the season, so do you think about the championship at all at this point?
No, we focus one race at a time. It's easy to get ahead of yourself if you start thinking like that. So
one race at a time. We'll go home, digest what we can learn from today, and focus on tomorrow.
Tony kept cutting out some of the cars that were between you guys, and you had those late yellows. Was that a problem in your mind at all?
Not as much as a problem as it was a concern. Similar to last race, sometimes the 992s help, sometimes they hurt, and when they're between me and Melito, they're typically helping. So this time I was thankful to have some cars behind.
I can only imagine. Well, congratulations. That's our winner, Niels Meissner, for the 991 class. Let's show off those trophies. And it wouldn't be podium celebrations without some champagne. Congratulations to our 991 class podium finishers for race 1 at Watkins Glen. This brings us to the 992 Masters. Finishing in P3 in the number 227, it's Joel Johnson. Then second today in the 226, David Musial Sr. And our winner for the first time since Barber in the 245, Scott Blend. Scott, congratulations. Big congrats to Scott. You and Gilliland look like you're having a pretty good battle out there. Unfortunately, he didn't get to wind up on the podium here with you. What are your thoughts on how that went?
Oh, he drove a great race. I mean, he was fast in all the right places. It was, I wasn't going to get around him unless he did make a mistake, which he did, and I feel terrible for it because he really drove a great race. But, I tried to save some tires for the end of the race. I'm notorious about running them off early and having nothing left at the end. We tried a different strategy, and it paid off today.
Bowden was also kind of mired back in the field because of the qualifying issues. What does this do for you in terms of the points? Do you feel like this kind of gives you a shot in the arm?
Yeah, I feel terrible for Mark because, he's always there. He's a great competitor. Bad luck this morning. I did hope after this weekend to get a little closer to Mark, a little farther away from Joel. That's what my game plan was. So far, game plan's coming together, but great competitors. Happy to be up here with Joel and David, and of course, love racing with everybody in these cars. It's just a great time, and thank you for the wonderful crew. Those 4 guys over there just do an amazing job week in, week out. Thank you, guys. Ruckus.
Well, congratulations. That is Scott Blend, our winner, and I can attest that crew has a good time over there. Let's show off those trophies for the cameras. And we'll spray some champagne. The 992 Masters Podium here for race number 1. And now it's time for the 992 Pro-Ams. Finishing third in the 222 machine, it's Ashley Freiberg. Then finishing second in the number 271, Paul Bocuse. And our winner in the number 296, it's Jared Thomas.
Another big congratulations, Jared. You kind of had every driver's worst nightmare there at the end. It's a late caution, and they call for a one-lap shootout. What's going through your head?
Yeah, honestly, I didn't know we were getting a one-lap shootout until late in that lap. So, I'm always a fan of ending the race under green. So I was all about it. Those are some of the most fun races to watch and drive in.
They looked pretty fun from our perspective as well. We were checking up during the broadcast, and we believe this is the 4th time you three have been in this order on this podium. Can anybody loosen you guys' grip?
I don't know. It seems like it's this 3 every weekend, all the way from practice 1 through qualifying and into the races.
Yeah, you guys are definitely the ones to beat. Congratulations and enjoy the victory. That's Jared Thomas, our winner. Let's show off those trophies. And for the last time today, let's spray some champagne. Our 992 Pro-Am Podium. Congratulations to all the drivers. We have more racing coming up tomorrow, 8:30 a.m. Be ready to tune in on Flow Racing and on YouTube for Porsche Sprint Challenge North America, as we'll have race 2 for the Caymans. I'm Joe Peak. Until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.